Synergetic Journal videos, my individual, continuous, non-political manifesto, May 26, 2026. Universe, unity, unifying, ubiquitous, unique, utopia, understanding, us. Part 2. The Closest Approach to Eternity in God. Part 21. Not reducing the tolerance magnitudes of the residual inaccuracies of their environmental observations and articulations. This irrationally educated behavior expects different manifest results for lawmaking authority, in particular, which is of the J factor, and whose religious beliefs, the R factor, can work indefinitely in a consort to defy cosmic logic. This manifest behavior virtually, literally, technically restrains humans in sociological, political, P factor, charged environments with seemingly no rational escape throughout what ought to be TEUCP, the evolving universal communication process. This is happening as the always partially overlapping generations of humans on Earth must learn more of our alternative options to escape the inevitable wars, the W factor, despite appreciating defensive dependence requiring trillions of tax dollars invested in the military system. M factor ad infinitum. How in the universe is anyone to correlate cognizance of the lag rates between apprehension and comprehension without learning of the word rate and the suffix rate in all words such as consecrate, as one example? That surreptitiously accredited false premised religious rites to ordain supposedly special entities while contriving sacred substantiations making inviolable or venerable the officials of such false claims that to this day engage human intellection in its own downfalls. As it turns out, rate only occurs when there is terminal, as in a point of connection for closing an electric circuit and or a device at which to enter data or commands for a computer, such as the essential individual brain. Consciously coordinated systemic thoughts, anticipatory design, science awareness, respecting the rate of change and the numbers pertaining to all matters in the human condition is always between apprehension and comprehension relative to degrees of freedom. Human intellection is what every individual is designed in principle by universe eternal omniscient mind to value as its inherently inviolable integrity. That in the PRJM, WBSHM, self-other deluding, false premise realities tends to decimate all hopes of recognizing and accrediting this essential patterning that can be closely associated with universe, unity, unifying, ubiquitous, unique, utopia, understanding us. The unique utopia seems to be the wished for TLBSWME, truth, love, beauty, symmetry, wisdom, maximum economy environment that is impossible to manifest within the inherited PRJMWBSHM, but is anticipatory within the scope of UIVMOFCH, universe, isotopic vector matrix, operational field, cosmic hierarchies, atomic computer complex. That is now referred to as nuclear computer design. Synergetics 427.01 through 427.17. The human psyche, its perspectives, perceptions, conceptions belong to the individual's inherently inviolable right for observing the environment's reenacting articulations which erroneously promote false premised concepts that cannot be found in nature and are results of the human imagination's inherent ability to conceptually formulate anticipatory design science realities. Instead, the human psyches are mistakenly redirected from relatively no awareness that mathematics is one of the great generalizations that Bucky Fuller worked out. He understood the fundamentals of mathematics that enabled him to understand special case behaviors very rapidly as one of his strategies, keeping it to himself until last-minute publishing of Synergetics seemed to have corresponded with growing older and perhaps running out of time in a lifetime. Anyway, mathematical, geometrical, topological, referential, eternally self-regenerating, energetic, synergetic patterning integrities cannot be found in any religion. At the cores of its inceptions, conceptions, inevitable regression aspects of the slave mentality. In any event, aspects result in cases, in quotes. There are no experimentally demonstrable absolute maximum limits, and the minimum limit experienceable is always a system, even when it looks like a point, end quote. From Arbitminster Fuller's 4 Minimum Aspects, June 9, 1975. In other words, in quotes, all the characteristics of a system, I put in parentheses, in its own right, are absolute because each of its components is the minimum limit case of its respective conceptual category for all conceptualities, end quote. At minimum, a structurally valid system consists of points, areas, and lines, which metaphysical intellect associates with the topological characteristics of the tetrahedrons: 4 points, vertexes; 4 triangular faces, opening; 6 lines, vectors. Wherever absences of forethought of the eternally conserved self-regenerating energy is mistakenly to be older than any designated hill, whenever the educated ignorance of seemingly satisfied pseudo-democracies continues to practice contradictions to such an ideal form of government of the people, by the people, for the people, that may have unwittingly incorporated correctable flaws in their founding constitution. With the Constitution of the United States of America, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights as an example, it is where the First Amendment reads, in quotes, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances, end quote. Since many humans already have learned that religion per se is an integral component factorization of the PRJMWBSHM, the R factor, then cosmically, logically, there is no free exercise of religion that is not intricately associated with the womb of permitted ignorance's slave mentality, which technically and literally identify as inculcating, indoctrinating reason to profit thus, that speaks both indirectly and directly against the individual human cerebral circuitry designed by universe eternal omniscient mind as a neuronal network with invoice inviolable integrity, and metaphysical mind's generalized conceptioning in fields of thought independent of size. It is where it is size alone that can come to zero, not the conceptuality of the reenacting articulated time, size, events, phenomenon, end quotes. Time is frequency. Arbor Fuller, March 6, 1973. Speaking of time, isn't it time to obsolete feigned interlopers who trespass on the individual's integral soft computer, its brain's computing power, under the guise of religion that for centuries has been given specially dispensed rights by the people's governmental ignorance? Humans can consciously acknowledge the isotropic vector matrix while becoming familiar with the acronym UIVMOFCH, Universe Isotropic Vector Matrix Operational Field Cosmic Hierarchy, especially since, in quotes, all the IVM identifications of experience are expressible in terms of angle and frequency, end quote. This clearly is angle, not any number of angels, and cultivated irrational inconsistencies besides, in quotes. The frequencies are all special case, time, space, limited specifics, and identify relative sizes and magnitudes, end quote. The IVM relative sizes and magnitudes are of eternally conceptual generalizations, as we can read in Synergetics 1011.34. Generalization is independent of size and time. In any event, humans of a mind, our evolving species would be hard-pressed to locate the generalized principle in any manifest religion, even though undoubtedly religions per se is a special case of whatever size or time magnitude. In the imagination's wished-for monopolizer, especially when one of its supposedly supreme authorities in the 21st century threatens to monopolize oil distribution and the price of it. Such types of exploitations demonstrate the value of doing harm, which is rampant on the world stage. This is happening while the auspices of religion are perniciously operating at the expense of the people, and now expecting the people to secure its edifices because of radical reactions to thus far unidentified undercurrents pertaining to inaccurate information, especially about where all the degrees of freedom derive. Freedom does not derive from politics, religion, justice, militaries, war, belief systems. Paraphrase from RBF's Marginalis on Pike's paper, Metro Dynamics of Thought, January 1977. Freedom is vectorially 6 positive and 6 negative economical degrees at each turn of events. What is the religion's conceptual generalization in terms of angles and frequencies respecting the only 2 possible covariables that are operatives in all universe design? Those 2 possible covariables are modifications of angle and frequency. How in universe does any supposedly bona fide religion with its free exercise not abridge the freedom of speech while prohibiting indoctrinated followers from speaking their own mind, petitioning the belief system's supreme authority for a redress of grievances? I ask. Especially where Iran's upper echelons remain impervious to the suffering of the people, while those hierarchically situate Ayatollah regimes reap the greatest percentage of collected revenue from national resources that amounts into billions of dollars. from contributions and pledges virtually acting out its political form of government, but falsely clinging to the usefulness of religious power. The religion power in other nations fails to separate church from the state when it also serves such profiting purposes, affording it special rights and privilege to inadvertently suppress gathered throngs, the masses who are exploited thus without recourse. Religions per se do not respect this inviolable integrity of the individual, nor show any evident knowledge of thought's systemic nature differentiating from thinking. Thought begins as two spheres come together. Until next time, thank you. Gratefully, faithfully, eternally, Christina Herlufsen. Contact herlufsencristina@gmail.com.